All right, good morning. I'm Aaron Heiser of Maker's Leather Supply, and I'm up here really early on a Saturday morning for two reasons. One, I really wanted to get this video done before I'm out of the office for another week. And two, I was going to get this video done yesterday, and I was in a meeting, and the meeting went pretty long, and it was a very good meeting, but anyway. All right, so I want to tool a silly horse. Not long ago, we did some live videos. You can still find them on this channel if you just click over to the live video section. But I tooled those cows on a live video. I saw the picture on Facebook. It just looked like it was a lot of fun. So I tooled it, and I had a lot of fun tooling it. There's the tooling right there. Aren't those some lovely cows? Looks just like me and Janie Sue on a goofy day. All right. Now, all that to say this, I have a project which requires a horse. So I was looking for a very similar horse type image, right? And somebody on Facebook actually came up with one. And there he is, right there. That's what I'm hoping to tool today. We'll see how it goes. Now, when I did the cow video, since it was a live video especially, I practiced it. Like I tooled one of the two cows just that morning, kind of a doodle, just to make sure that I hadn't lost my touch and I actually could deliver on what I thought I was going to do. But I have not yet tooled this horse, okay? Now, I am going to put this horse as a free download on our website, the image of it. It's just some AI image. Okay, and then I went ahead also, and in my Adobe Illustrator program, I went ahead and traced the hard lines of this image so that maybe it would be easier for someone else to do it with us, okay? So when I say the hard lines, when you do a figure carving type tooling or something like this, not everything is swivel cut. I see a lot of people make that mistake. I used to make that mistake. I thought every line on a pattern must be swivel cut and then something done with it. I don't swivel cut much. As you can see, there's a ton of details in that horse that there's my simple line drawing, and that's, yeah, there's tons of lines left out, and we just add those later, okay? And that'll help you get different type of results, textures, bevels, things like that throughout your entire project as you do some lines that are cut, some that are not. Okay, so basically I just cut lines where there's a lot of high detail parts, I guess you could say. Okay, sorry, I just saw two lines I didn't trace. Anyway, again, this will be a free download on our website, and I'll put the link to that download in the link of the video or the description of the video. Okay, but I'm doing this because I don't really tool floral tooling very much. I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's not my style. It's not me personally. But stuff like this is what keeps me excited to do tooling and stay in leatherwork and stuff like that. I love a fun challenge like this, or those silly cows over there, or whatever. I like things like that. Anyway, I have already traced it out on my leather. I just used that line drawing like I said, and I went ahead and traced it on with a stylus. That way I could save a good 15, 20 minutes of video. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll re-angle the camera and everything to where you're looking at my workbench, and I'll have my swivel knife out, and the next thing I'm going to do is do my swivel cuts, and yeah, then we're just going to get going on it, and this is going to be a fun project. So, be right back. All right, so I'm trying a new camera mount. Normally you're sitting across the desk from me, and then I just kind of zoom in as much as I can on the tripod. But with tooling videos, I'm always trying to get a better angle. So now you're still across from me, but it's almost like you're leaning over my desk. I got this fancy big old suction cup thing, and it holds the camera up at an angle. Anyway, we're going to try it out. Hopefully it works, and hopefully it doesn't fall over. It is suction cup to the desk, but I don't know that I trust suction cups. Seems like it's holding pretty good. All right, so here it is, okay? My moisture content is still fine. It's still just you know, kind of cold to the touch, feels kind of damp, but not wet at all. Okay. Now, the biggest thing to remember when you're doing a piece like this, or any tooling really, not all of your swivel cuts are the same. Okay, there's areas on here where I'll have deeper, heavier swivel cuts, and there's areas on here where I'll have much lighter, almost just a scratch of a swivel cut. Okay, so for instance, here where the ear and the sides of the face and stuff are going over the background, those will be heavier swivel cuts because I'm going to bevel the crap out of that to try to help it stand out from the background more. Okay, same with inside the nose right here. I'm actually going to start out with a light cut at the top of the nose, go really heavy down in here, but then back to a light cut because I'm actually going to bevel more or bevel further than my cut goes, just to show once again as it gradually kind of goes out, because how a horse's nose is like it would poke in that way. Okay, hope that makes sense. The eyeballs. Okay, if I cut those real deep all the way around the eyeballs, then now we're trying to show some serious depth when really the eyeballs and the sockets around it really aren't that far apart from each other, I guess you could say. There's not a lot of depth there, but there is a lot of definition. Okay, so I'll quit trying to figure out weird words to describe all this, and I'll just start on it. Generally, I'll start with an image like this, and I'll look at it and like, okay, this is a 3D image. What's furthest out? What's closest to me in this 3D image, and what's not? And that's going to be those nostril cuts. So again, I'm going to come out here, and I'm just going to very lightly cut in the beginning. And then as I get down into the middle of the nostril, I'm going to cut much heavier and harder. And then I'll fade it out at the bottom. Okay? And then same thing over here. Light in the beginning, heavy. About like so. Okay? The mouth. I didn't put the corners of his mouth in the drawing because I really think that I can do better if I just bevel those without cutting them. But the other parts of his mouth are going to have a lot of definition to them here. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut the line that I drew. Same with the bottom part of the mouth. There we go. And then there's areas on the line drawing. I'll bring it up right quick. There's areas on the line drawing, like right here. This line comes down here, and then there's like almost like a little gap or a space. Anyway, this side of the chin, that side of the chin don't quite line up. That was done by design. I'm going to cut those lines in that same fashion, and it'll help me show kind of like a wrinkle roll, a double chin, if you will. Okay, and it's like that down there, over here on the jaw, and then a couple of times up here on the ears, where it'll help me to make it look like a part of this, the skin kind of overlaps another part. Again, my words aren't working too well today, but hopefully my actions are. So, all right, so I will go ahead and do the outside of the bottom of his mouth here. And again, this is over background, so I'm gonna cut it pretty good, all the way up to where I get under the neck here, and then I'm gonna cut a little bit lighter, not much. Okay, but then here's that place I was talking about with the two lines crossing. Tooling is a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. I don't do near as much of it nowadays as I used to, but once in a while, an image like this comes along, and I'm like, I have to put that on leather. Okay. Now, this line right here, stylus, this line right here, I'm going to very, very lightly start that cut, and I'm going to come out here, and it's kind of where you can see like the angle of his nose because his face is just slightly turned. And Anyway, start out super light on that cut and work my way heavier, and then it's going to be very heavy as it comes around the outside of the nose and comes down to the mouth. When I go to tool this guy, you're going to see that, honestly, a lot of the tools I use are just bevelers and shaders. I don't really use a lot of specialized type tools when doing something like this, because really it's a bunch of beveling and shading. It's modeling spoon work. All right, other nostril on the outside, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start out a little bit lighter, work it a little bit heavier, and then come back to light again. About like so. Now, his eyes. I've got lines which are almost like the bridge of his nose if he was a human, between the eyes, and I'm going to cut those lines with just a little bit of pressure, not much at all. Okay, there's one, and then the other right there. And then I'm just going to cut around his eyeballs. Okay, and it's very important to be as accurate as you can when cutting around the eyeballs, because you don't want them to look off balance, I guess you can say. You don't want one way bigger than the other. Don't get me wrong, he is a goofy looking cross-eyed horse, so it won't be too detrimental if his eyes aren't perfect and symmetrical. About like so. Okay. All right, now from right here is where his mane starts, but then I'll just come down to the head and just cut the side profile of the head here. The ears. Okay, the ears have a lot of, even on a regular horse and on a real horse, have a lot of texture and different ways they're going. They're kind of veiny. They got hair in them. Like, there's a lot of different things going on in ears. But for the purpose of this swivel cut, we're going to kind of simplify that. We're just going to follow that outside line, and we're going to cut it pretty hard because it's over the background. And I know this looks like a very goofy rendition of an ear, how this is drawn, but we'll add in a lot later that'll help it look more like an actual horse's ear. Okay, and then there's this little V cut in here, and I'm going to start out on the top of the V real lightly, work my way heavy down into the V, and then the same thing on the other side. About like so. Okay. The mane, I'm just going to cut the lines that I've got drawn here, and we're going to come back later and we'll add a lot more texture into the mane, but I need to kind of define the outline of it, which is very difficult to say considering it's hair. There's no true outline. There's thousands of little outlines. So we'll just do that for the mane for now, okay? Only thing left is this floppy ear out here. Once again, it's got an area here where cuts kind of overlap and run across each other. That was on the cows that I did. One of them's supposed to be a bull and the other one's supposed to be a cow. The bull, it was really funny. This ear is big and prominent, but this one is supposed to be like it's kicked back. But what it really looks like is this ear is normal size, or, you know, it's a big ear. And then this one's a itty bitty little ear. But hopefully captured it well enough that it looks right. Okay, now the teeth. Real easy. We're just going to go around the teeth. Now, if you notice, I did not trace, I don't have any gums in here. Okay, we're going to add those in later. I didn't make them part of this drawing because I didn't want them cut. So we will add those in later. We're just going to hand draw them in while we're modeling and all that stuff. So the cuts of the teeth don't go all the way to the edge of the lips or whatever. Because he got big gums. Just like Mr. Ed. Luckily, horses have really jacked up teeth, so you can't really mess them up. At least most of the horses I've seen. I've never really been around any like big prize-winning horses by any means. When I was a kid, we owned 2 horses that my parents got for my sister and I. One of them was named Moonshine, and I'm pretty sure it was the devil reincarnate. And the other one was named Queenie, which was a retired racehorse. Man, what a big old tall horse. I've never been very tall my entire life, and it was real fun for me to try to get on that thing when I was a lot smaller. All right, Moonshine would do anything it could to kick me off. Everybody else could ride her, but she didn't like me at all. So, whatever. I didn't like her either. All right, I'm going to pause the camera. That's all the swivel cutting I hope to do. I will come back with my swivel knife later and add some details. But as far as cut and bevel type, whoop, hang on. We got some neck here that we didn't even think about. As far as cut and bevel type lines, that's all we got right there. Okay, so I am going to pause the video right quick. I'll grab a lot of my beveling tools. I'm quite sure I'll have to dig back into my toolbox 15 or 20 times during this whole episode. But I'll grab a lot of my beveling tools and stuff, and we'll start discussing all that. Be right back. All right, so we'll talk more in depth about each tool as I actually pick them up to use them. But I have here 3 different sizes of steep angled checkered bevelers. I like checkered tools. Not everybody does. Some people like smooth tools, and that's okay. Everybody's got their preference. I like checkered tools. I always have. Then I have 3 what we call low angle checkered bevelers. Okay, and the low angle ones are just going to help depress more background away and show some more depth. Okay, and we'll talk about that as we do it. I have 3 different sizes of checkered matting tools. I have 1 little bitty triangle beveler here that'll just help me get into tight little areas. And then I've got these 2. These are old craft tools, and they each, I use them for the ends of hair. That's what I was taught to use them for, but the tool number on them is F902. Okay, and I have 2 because they were made different years and stuff, and so one of them's a little bit smaller than the other. I just grabbed them both. I wasn't really sure which one I might end up using. I might end up using both. And again, I may use a lot more tools, but these are going to be the real workhorses of what I'm doing today. Now, all of these tools that I'm using, minus those 2 craft tools, all the other tools I just introduced to you, were all made by Clay Miller. Okay, now you don't have to have tools made by Clay Miller. He makes great tools if that's what you want to do. But I do encourage that all of your tools be made by the same person, because my biggest thing in having all my Clay Miller my tools made by Clay Miller, as far as my bevelers and shaders go, all the checkering matches. Okay, in my toolbox, every beveler and shader was made by Clay Miller, and they all have the exact same checkering on them. Okay, if you've got craft tools from different generations and things like that, some of them will have giant checkering on them, some of them will have little bitty checkering on them, and stuff like that. And anyway, it just helps the flow of the project in my eyes if all of that matches, because then all of your shading matches and stuff like that. Okay, now besides those tools, I also have here 3 different modeling spoons. These ones happen to be Pro Tools from Bob Beard. I don't use way too many Bob Beard tools, and it's not that I don't have them, and it's not that I don't love them. It's that they're a little bit harder to get, so not everybody does have them. So especially if I'm teaching a class or doing something on a video, I usually don't use them, because a lot of folks won't have those same tools, and they'll think, oh, I can't do what he's doing, I don't have the same tool. Anyway, long story short, these are just some different modeling spoons. They're the ones I happen to have within reach, and yes, they are made by Bob Beard. They are great tools, but there's nothing super special about them that other modeling tools won't do. Okay? Whew, it's a lot of talking to say nothing, isn't it? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my smallest beveler, and I'm going to start inside those nostrils, just like I started with my cutting. Okay, and just like my cut, I'll start out here on the very edge of it, and I'll very, very lightly tap. But as I get down in here, we're going to tap heavier. And then we're going to lighten up again. Okay, now I've got a picture of this setting over here by my tools that I'm going to look at a lot and refer to it a lot, just to make sure. I don't know what fell, but it sounded expensive. Funny. It was just a quarter. All right. So anyway, I have this picture over here of what I'm tooling, and I'll refer to it a lot, just looking at it to make sure of what I'm doing over here. Okay. So here I have done the inside of this nostril, and I'm going to flip over here while I'm holding the same tool and do the same thing on the other nostril. And then I'm going to switch tools. Okay, so there you go. Hopefully you can see the variation of my beveling, that it went from light to heavy to light again. Okay, and it shows that that part of that nostril is really big in there. Now I'm going to switch over, and I'm going to grab this very low angle beveler. Okay, and I'm going to run around the inside of the rest of the nostril and just lightly tap it here. And it's going to help to define the rest of that nostril opening. Like that. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here. All right, now I'll show you what a low angle beveler really can do. You see where there's some depth and everything as it goes down into that nostril? Well, I'm going to take my low angle beveler and kind of follow that same bevel and create a lot of shading in there to where it really looks like, I mean, that's a hole in his face. Okay. About like so. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And as we do this, as we tool this image, I'm going to do a lot of back and forth. I'm going to see an area. As I'm working on one thing, I'll see something that maybe I have an idea where I can improve another area. So I'm going to do a lot of back and forth, guys. So it's not like I'm going to do everything that needs to be done to these nostrils and then move on. I'm going to do the basics. I'm going to do the hard and heavy on this stuff, and then I'm going to come back and do a lot of refinement work and things like that. Overall, it's going to take me well over 2 hours to tool this horse. Okay? All right. Now, the outside of his nostril here. Okay? I'm going to take that low angle beveler. And once again, I'm going to start out light up here. Kind of work my way a little bit heavier. But I'm not slamming on it, okay? I don't want it to stick out like a pig's nose. I just want it to show that it's up off the face. About like so. On the other side, same kind of thing. I'm going to really start out lightly up here at the bridge of the nose. Work my way out. Now I'm over background, okay? And I am going to hit it pretty substantially to show that that face is up off the background. And I'm not even worried about rough beveling marks right now. It's going to happen. But I'll clean that stuff up later. Okay, now since I'm already working right there on the outside, I might as well go up the side of the face here. And then right here, I get up over the ear. Well, I don't want to hit it quite as hard because the ear is closer than the background. So I'm still going to hit it, but I'm not going to wail on it. About like that. Since I'm up here though, I'll take that ear and I will wail on it to show the difference between the ear and the background. About like so. Okay. So already we're really showing some depth and stuff like that. And I mean, he's already starting to really pop out of the leather, and that's awesome. But we got a long way to go. Okay. Now, here we are with the opening of the mouth. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just bevel in those little corners of the mouth that I didn't cut with my swivel knife. Okay, I've got my tiniest little steep angle beveler, and I'm just going to hit it and rotate it to connect the top and the bottom of the mouth, like that. Okay, now I'm going to grab a little bit bigger of a beveler. Again, it's a steep angle one, and I'm going to tap along here. Across the top of the mouth. I may come back and follow that with the shallow angle beveler here in a few minutes. I do a lot of that. I'll bevel a lot of lines twice, where I beveled it once with the steep angle and then once again with the shallow angle. And I don't know, it just seems to work out best for me. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and go around the outside of the mouth and chin here. All right, I'm on my steep angle beveler, and I will transition in a moment to the shallow angle beveler. So here I started where we talked about that little, where one cut doesn't match the other cut. I started with the higher of the two cuts and started beveling out and around his chin here. And then I'll fade it out up here where the lower lip meets the lower jaw, I guess you could say. Okay. Now I'll go over here and I'll do the side of the face to come back and join that on the other side. Okay, now I did that side, and I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do this side now. Okay, Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do the inside of the bottom lip. And I'm not doing it hard, just beveling along. There we go. Okay, and really, this image is really already starting to pop out on us and look good. But we got a ways to go here. I think the next thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and do the teeth. Okay, now where one tooth is on top of another tooth, I don't want to bevel that very hard. But where the teeth are over the open mouth, I will bevel that a little bit harder. Okay, there's even a tongue in there that I'm going to have to kind of draw in and figure out. But I didn't want it to be a hard cut line, so there we go. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bevel the teeth first, and then we'll worry about that tongue. I'll do what I can with this medium-sized beveler here, and then I'm going to switch over in a moment and get my my smaller beveler. But the first thing I'll do is just in between the teeth. And then I'll do like around the bottoms of the teeth here. And kind of like the nostrils, we'll show where there's more depth as the mouth opening goes up behind the top teeth there than there is along the bottom teeth where there's a tongue behind it. Okay. Okay, now I got my little beveler here, and I'm going to do that gap between the front two teeth. And we'll accentuate that a little bit more in a moment. But I'm going to take my my low angle beveler now and go ahead and do around the bottoms of those teeth, and that's what's going to show that depth behind them where the mouth is open. Now, here, this big old low angle beveler won't get up in here in between these teeth where I want to show that same amount of depth. So I'm going to have to transition over to one of my backgrounding tools, okay? And it's just a little teardrop shaped backgrounding tool that has that same checkering on it. And it's a very small tool, so I don't have to hit it very hard at all. There we go. And it helps me to show that same amount of depth in that gap. Okay. So there we go. Now I'm going to lightly bevel around the bottom teeth. I'll clean up the top ones here in a little bit, but I'm going to lightly bevel around the bottom teeth as well. And then I'm going to come back with my, and draw in that tongue and stuff like that. Okay. I'm going to go back to my steep angle beveler. I'm going to do the tops of the teeth here. You can hear me, I'm just barely tapping. I'm not doing a lot of hard banging at all here. Okay. I may come back and put some more definition into it, but right now this is all that I want. Okay. All right. The edge of that tongue, you can kind of see it right along here. So I'm going to put my low angle beveler up here, and I'm just going to do that. And that kind of accentuates, there's the edge of my tongue on that side. On the other side, it's pretty much dark in there, but I may not paint this, so I can't just leave something alone just because it looks like it's dark on the picture, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and just barely tap it in right there, and that kind of gives you, there's his tongue, okay? Now, I'm gonna take a little bit larger backgrounder here, okay? Now what I have here is I have this definitive line right along here. You may not be able to see it on the camera, but I can. But it's where this bevel is coming up this way, this bevel is coming up that way, and they meet, and it's like a ridge of mountains right there, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this little bitty checkered backgrounder here, and I'm just going to depress that just the slightest little bit so that it's not there. I almost could hand push this and not have to worry about hitting it with my maul. Okay, now I'm going to go back with my low angle beveler, and I'm going to do more depth behind the top teeth. And then I'm going to give a little bit more accentuation, I don't know, to the edges of the tongue. Just so that we know that that's what that is right there. Now, I'm going to come in here, and again, this is my low angle beveler, so I'm going to be very careful, but I'm just going to kind of lightly depress it, that same bevel behind the front teeth, or the bottom teeth, just to help give some shading in the areas that need some shading. And some depth that, whoop, my tape is exposed there. I do have tape on the back of this to keep it from stretching. Okay. All right. Now, let me go back to that little shading, that little checkered matting tool. Okay. And now where I'm off the edge of between the tongue and the lip over here, I'm going to do more shading there to show that that's just dark mouth. And it's going to go all the way up. I probably should do my gums first, but I hadn't done them yet. So I'll do my gums, and then I'll finish that in just a moment. There we go. All right, we're going to do our gums, okay? It's not going to be any real trick to it. I'm going to use my low angle beveler here, okay? And if you look at the picture, how the gums go, it's just like how the gums go on a human. They kind of arch up over each tooth and then come down in between. And that's all I'm going to do. Okay, and so all it does is it creates a very faint line there. You can see it, you know it's there, you know it's gums, okay? But it is kind of rough going across there. I'm gonna do the bottom two, and then I'm gonna go back with a modeler and do a little bit more to accentuate like the between the teeth and stuff like that. Same thing on the bottom. Okay. All right. So again, I'm going to go back and let's see which one of these little modeling spoons I want to use. And I'm just going to kind of help create that gum line with the teeth. Crisp that up just a little bit. And I'm just barely depressing the leather a little bit. Kind of shaping it up. Thinking about my own gums since I don't have a horse standing in front of me. There we go. Now the other thing I'll do is this modeling spoon has a pretty sharp little point on it, and I'm going to just depress right there where it goes between each tooth. I did a video a long time ago where I did skulls, or a skull, and talked about the teeth on a skull, and it's like if you can get the teeth right on a skull, then it makes the whole project. The rest of it can look like crap, but if the teeth look awesome, I mean, it's just going to be a cool skull. I don't feel like the horse's teeth are as important, but, you know, still important. Okay, so now all I'm doing is I'm just kind of separating the teeth. They were very lightly cut with the swivel knife. I'm taking the edge of my modeling spoon and just kind of giving some definition between the teeth, because he does have some big old jacked up teeth, and we want you to see that. And again, I'm just cleaning stuff up. Sometimes you can get into places and do things with a modeling spoon that maybe you can't do with your bevelers. So that is a very important tool. Oftentimes, since I do, you know, floral stuff, I forget about my modeling spoon. I don't feel like I need it as much on my floral, which is also false. I mean, you should use it, but anyway. I forget about my modeling spoons and how important they can be. All right, now that I've gotten up here with the gums and defined where the edge of the gum is on the corner of the mouth, I'm going to go ahead back with my my matting tool and go ahead and shade in the rest of that darker corner. Like that. Now it doesn't look that impressive yet, but we'll do a lot of other stuff around the outside of that cheek there, and that'll really help to make that look pretty good. Okay. All right. What's next? Check our moisture content. We're still good. The leather is damp, not wet. I'm just going to go ahead and knock him out a little bit of neck here. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to bevel down around his mane, okay, where it covers the forehead. I'm not going to do as much hard beveling, but around here on the outside, around the outside, around the outside again, I'm going to do harder beveling, okay? I'm going to use my shallow angle beveler first, or sorry, my steep angle beveler first. I really do like to use it first and then come back with my shallow one. Okay, here the mane is crossing the ear, and once again, I'm going to kind of go a little bit lighter on it. But then once I get off the ear, I'm going to hit it pretty hard again. And I'm just going to bevel main parts of this outside of this mane. We're going to come back and clean it up with some other tools here in a little bit. Okay, and here I am over where the mane's over the part of the forehead, And again, I will bevel a little bit lighter as I go into that. Okay. Now the only other main beveling I have to do is right there on that other ear, and I will just bevel down the outside of it pretty good. There we go. Again, I will come back later and everything on the outside will also have the low angle beveler to really give it some distance. Okay, but there we are so far. We're doing well. I'm going to pause the camera for a little bit, take a break. I'm going to study on his eyes some, and then we'll come back and talk about what we're going to do to them because he has no life when he has no eyes. All right, we are back. Now, the eyes are a very gentle thing, okay? I've seen lots of people doing figure carving that when they get to the eyes, they just bevel the tar out of them and everything, and it just doesn't look right. Now, granted, I don't do things that look like photos of people by any means, and that's why I love these cartoony type images, because you can put some whimsical type details in there, and it'll still look okay. When you're really trying to make stuff look lifelike, you need to contact Jim Linnell or Annie Libertini or Jurgen or one of those guys that does that kind of tooling, and I promise you they can teach you how to do it. I'm not your guy. All right. So I'm going to be doing a lot of just pushing a beveler into the leather to go around the eyeballs here, okay? So I'm going to just take, and this is the bridge of the nose type thing, and again, I'm just going to lightly hand push this thing into the leather. Once you've gone too far with some of these tools, there's not really any coming back. So we might as well start super lightly, and we can always go back and deepen it if we need to. Okay? Then I'm going to go around the inside of the eyeball doing the same thing. Luckily, this guy's nice and wide-eyed for us. And I may follow this back with modeling spoons and all kinds of other stuff, but right now we're roughing it in. Okay, so that's it on that one. Now I'm going to move over to the other one, do the same thing. Start with the bridge of the nose type cut. And then do around the eyeball. We will go back with this modeling spoon in this eyeball, both of them, and we'll just smooth it over and make it look completely round by making sure that we've gotten rid of any of the marks that the beveler left. Okay. One of the most difficult things that I'll have is we're going to have to put pupils and irises, I guess it's called, on the eyeballs. And I'm going to hand jam them in there and hope that they're not too crossed. Like more crossed than the whimsical picture wants them to be, I guess you could say. All right, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to take my small low angle beveler here and I'm going to bevel in some eyelids, just like the picture shows. And again, you can barely hear me tapping because I'm not hitting very hard at all. You may not even be able to hear me tapping. But this is one of those little bitty details will matter. Okay. Oh, these are the hard parts. Okay. Now, underneath the eyes, he's almost got like a tired look. And I'm just going to go in here with a modeling spoon first and try to add this stuff. If that doesn't work, we'll come back and bevel some. But I want to depress that area. And kind of smooth it all the way. Again, we're going to follow the curvature of the eye. There he's got his tired eyes. Okay. Bring that up. I'm not sure how well. Same thing on this side. All right, now I've got the major depression there, but I want to do some actual lines, you know, like wrinkly eyes. So I'm going to turn that modeling spoon on its side and just kind of trace them out throughout that depression there. Now again, I'm looking over here at my picture often, just trying to figure out, okay, what did the original image do here? I'm just going to model around them, trying to get this right. Okay, now here's where I was talking about smoothing the eyeball out, getting rid of my bevel marks. Trying to make that eyeball look round. All right. I'm going to leave that eye alone for a little bit. I'm going to go pick on the other eye for a while. And then I may come back to them, or I may move on to something else until I kind of figure something else out. Don't get me wrong, they're not done. It's hard to narrate what I'm doing right now because honestly, I'm just kind of like, oh, I think I should put a line here. Oh, I think I should put a line there. So it's very difficult for me to describe it all, and that's why I'm not saying as much, which is probably a blessing to your ears if you watch my videos. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and move on to some other facial features and stuff, and I think that'll help me to figure out more about what needs to happen with these eyes here in a little bit, okay? So here I'm accentuating where the side of the nose, where his face is slightly turned, so you'd see the side of the nose there, and have some shading and some effect with all that. Okay, now I'm going to go across the bridge of his nose, and that's going to help to pull a lot of things out, but I have to be very careful because I don't want him to end up looking like a pig. Okay, I don't want that, they've just got this definitive pointy nose by any means at all. So, taking my modeling here, I may just go back with this low angle beveler and just barely tap that sucker in. There we go. All right, now around the outsides of his nostrils are lots of more details. So we're just going to kind of model that in. Okay, and we rough it in first, and then we come back and kind of smooth out lines to make it work. And the same thing on the other side. And sometimes you'll do a line and be like, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?" But it'll be all right. We'll, in the end, it's going to be okay. Okay. One of my favorite sayings is, "Everything will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, then it's not the end." And I keep referring, you don't see my face, but every 4 or 5 seconds, I'm looking back at the picture to make sure that I'm not screwing up too bad here. I know I'm screwing up. I want to make sure I'm not screwing up too bad. All right. So as I go across, angled a little too much there. There we go. Across the bridge of his nose, there's a little indention there. And it almost looks like he has an upper lip curl here. See if we can't replicate that without screwing up too bad. And then once all that's done, there's a whole bunch of lines and wrinkles and things like that in there, okay? And I'll flip this bad boy over and we'll start kind of adding some of that in there and see if we can't. That is too sharp. Do I have one that's not as sharp? And you just got to kind of play with your textures and stuff like that and try to get what you're looking for out of it, okay? So I'm going to sit here with this modeling spoon for quite a while and try to get what I need out of it. Maybe it'll look great. Maybe y'all never ever see this video. Who knows? That's the beauty of not doing it live. Okay, let's see here. Kind of curls up with the lip here. All right, and then I've got the closer I get down to the mouth, the more those lines are just tiny little lines. So the devil is truly in the details here, guys. So all this is, it is a ball modeler with the slightest little sharp tip on it there. And when I say sharp, pointy, not sharp. How's that? So there we go. All that texture on the front of his nose right there. Okay. Now, a couple more. Right. I'm not super happy with it, but I'm not upset with it yet. So, if that makes any sense. All right, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to do around the edge of the cheek here and kind of put in some of that detail whilst I think about what else I need to do on that nose. Okay, so his cheek has almost like a dimple would be what that would be called, like he's smiling and he's got a little wrinkle there. I'm going to put that in with a beveler. Okay, so I'm going to start way low down here, past the opening of the mouth, and I'm not tapping hard by any means. And I'm going to make it curve up and towards the nostril, like so. Okay. Now, just above the corner of the mouth is a very similar thing, and I'll go ahead and add that in there too. All right. Now, the funny thing is, I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to bevel the other side of that same line. There we go. And then once again, I will kind of draw in some lines and stuff to blend that into the rest of the face. I'll go around it with my modeler here and sharpen it up a little bit. There we go. Okay, now in the corner of the mouth here, I'm going to try to round that out a little bit and give it some shade. Make it look a little bit more natural. But I still want to keep that crispness where the mouth goes into its closure there. So I'm going to grab my tiny beveler here and redo that line. I do a lot of that where I'll bevel something, then I'll end up doing so much modeling and whatever that it ends up, I need to re-bevel it just to show that depth again. There we go. And this is one of those pictures that if I decide to paint it, I can show a lot more shading and shadow and stuff like that. But if I don't paint it, then I have to rely on these tools to show what I need to show. All right. Down here on his bottom lip, I'm just going to shade some of that and flatten it out a little bit where it doesn't look so puffy, like he didn't get smacked in the lip. There are areas where he's supposed to look that way, but there's also areas where he's not. Okay. Now I'm going to also come into here, and right at the bottom of the lip, I'm going to try to push hard with this modeling spoon and give it kind of an undercut. And that way it'll almost look like it's lifted up off, you know, because I mean, if you think about your lip and your gums, I mean, your lip is up off of your gums. Okay. Now, with the application of what this piece of leather is going to end up being, I don't want to actually undercut and lift that. I just want to give it the illusion that it has more depth there. Okay, if this were going to hang on the wall, I would have no problem going ahead and going under there with a scalpel or something and then lifting that up a little bit and making it look pretty cool. But that's not what we're doing here. All right. We're going to give his front lip here a little bit more accent and definition. Okay, just some lines across it, things like that, to help it look like it's not just a flat piece of leather. Okay, and there's no real rhyme or reason to that other than I'm going to follow the curvature of the lip and just try to make it look a little bit more natural. About like that. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Slowly but surely, we're getting somewhere. Okay, now I think that there's a lot more separation right here that I can show. Perhaps more even on the other side. Okay. All right. Now this horse has eyebrows. At least one that you can see on the picture. Okay, and it's right here. And I'm just not sure about that. I can go in with a swivel knife and then just do lots of cuts as if it were an eyebrow, but it's risky. If I don't make it look whimsical enough, then it'll just look like a caterpillar sitting on top of his eye. As far as I can tell or can remember, I haven't stood next to a horse in quite a while. I do not recall them having eyebrows. But you know what? We're here for the fun of it. Let's do a little bit. Not bad. We've kind of personified him with a little bit of eyebrow there. Okay, we'll do a little bit of eyebrow, kind of going up under the other eye over here. I don't know. Maybe I love it. Maybe I hate it. I'll decide later. Let's move on. All right. Okay, some more facial features. Right about here, he's got what looks like a muscle, I guess. But either way, that's a big old blank spot, so we got to add something there. So we're going to kind of model in that muscle that's almost like wishbone shaped. Okay, almost there. Just got to smooth it out a little bit. It stinks because the smaller modelers with the more creased or more sharp edges definitely can help you get more details, but they leave a lot of tool marks that you don't want. So 6 in one hand. All right, then I'm just going to make this whole area here kind of indent down into that muscle so that there's not any high spots in between. And this is why, honestly, we should save all of our texturing for the last, because now here I am rubbing that down a little bit, and it's taking away from the textures that I put there before. But that's fine. We can put it back. Again, this is why, like I said, I'm going to bounce all over this thing, because I'll see something and be like, "Ooh, I can work on that now," and then I'll see something else and be like, "Ooh, I should work on that now." So I don't know if it's a ADD type thing or just how I work or what. But anyway, all right. Okay, the time has come to do his eyes. And again, I'm scared of these, okay? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a little worried. But what I'm going to see if I can do here is I have cedars of all kinds of shapes and sizes. And I'm going to see if I can find a cedar that maybe I can use to just help me cheat a little bit. So far, so good. Not bad. All right, I am not upset about that so far. Now, we've got pupils. So I'm going to take an even smaller cedar and try to dot those eyes with some little pupils here. I probably should have chosen a smaller pupil, but again, I'm not mad about it. We'll be all right. Now, I'm probably going to make myself upset here. I'm going to take my swivel or my modeling spoon, and I'm going to model down around that iris just a little bit, because I had a round eyeball, and now it's a round eyeball with what looks like a little cave down in the middle of it. So I'm going to try to model that down just a tiny bit. Okay, very, very tiny detail. I am not pushing hard or deep at all, but I am trying to fix that area. This is where, I'm sure I've mentioned it on video before, but when I was a young leather worker, I was around other leather workers. I would hear them say that, "Oh man, there's not enough light in here. You know, it's hard to see and this and that." And I was always like, "What is wrong with you guys?" But now here I am. I've got two giant studio lights pointed at my desk, and I can't see a dang thing. Some bull. All right. I'm going to go back to doing just some beveling and stuff, just to kind of look at it for a minute while I do this. But like over here, I used my low angle beveler first. And usually I really like to use my steep angle beveler and then go back with a low angle beveler. And I feel like I get better, more accurate bevels right up against the lines. So I'm going to go back with my steep angle one here and clean that up. This is one of those things that every tiny detail adds up to make your finished product, okay? And if you're not worried about all those itty bitty details, then your finished product won't be what you hoped it would be. Okay. All right. Let's do some ear work. First, I need to get this a little bit wet again. It's starting to dry out on me. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera. I sprayed it down. I'm going to pause the camera for 3 or 4 minutes while that moisture absorbs in really well. I don't want to tool it while it's this wet because I'll get way deeper lines and stuff than I wanted. So I'll be right back, guys. All right, let's play with the ear. Okay, so once the ear, much like the nostril, is it'll be almost flat out here, but then it'll kind of concave in, and then it'll go down into an ear hole. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is bevel my ear hole. And I'll start out lightly, get a little heavier. About like so. Okay. And then the cut isn't the whole ear opening. We're going to go further with our beveler than we did with the cut, so that it can fade out like that. Okay. And we'll do a little bit more of that over here too. And then we need to shade that area and make it look like it actually goes down into that ear hole. Okay, now there's not enough room there to use my low angle beveler, so I'm going to have to get real crafty with my shader here and just kind of fade it out as if it were a beveler. About like so. Now, there's lots of hair and stuff like that on the ear, whether it be coming off the outside of the ear or, you know, whatever else. There's lots of fuzziness, lots of hair, lots of texture. Okay, and we're just going to kind of invent some of that. Okay, so I have here my my shallow angle beveler, and I'm going to kind of work it up here, and it's going to show like that fold of that ear. Like that. Have that fade down into that nothingness there. Let's see here. I think I'm going to run this opening a little higher here. I don't want it to become a rabbit by any means, but I got to do something to show the shade and texture of that ear. So there we go. Depressing the whole thing with a modeling spoon is really helping to give it that whole ramp effect as it goes down into the ear there. There we go. All right. I was getting a little nervous for a moment, but again, everything will be okay in the end, won't it? All right, now I'm going to show you around the outside of the ear over here. You can see where hairs come off of it, okay? There's 2 different ways to do that. One is those tiny little craft tools that I showed you earlier, and I don't think that's what I want to do here just yet. But the other one's going to be with my swivel knife. And so what I'm going to do is almost like little notches right on the edge of that bevel, but I need to make sure that that bevel is everything I want it to be before I do that, because if I have to re-bevel it, then I might screw it up. So I'm going to take a larger low angle beveler. It has the same angle, it's just larger. And I'm going to bevel around the lower outside part of that ear. Kind of clean all that up and give it as much depth as I can. Okay, there it is. Now look how much that sucker, I mean, it looks like it's standing inches off that leather when it's not. Now, that hair is coming up and off of the ear. So I'm going to take my swivel knife and I'm just going to make almost like little notches. And it's literally going to cut the leather away a little bit in those areas. Like that. And I don't want it to look symmetrical or anything like that. And I'm just going to follow that up with tiny little fibrous type cuts to show that hair going all the way up. Then I'll do those same cuts on the other side coming down, but they're not as bold, so just the tiny little fiber type cuts coming down. About like so. Alrighty. Other than that, I'm gonna take my modeling spoon here and just kind of add some wrinkles and stuff to the ear, but the ear is pretty simple. There we go. For now, that ear is going to be done. I am sure I'll come back and do some more to it here in a little bit, but for now, we're going to call that ear simple and done. Okay, I'm just taking and kind of roughing up areas that shouldn't be all nice and smooth, giving it some texture. Okay, now the other ear is actually easier because you don't see the opening. You just see it's kind of twisted away, and yeah, so you don't see the opening of it. So really it's just going to be some hair and some texture, and yeah, that'll be that. So I'm going to bevel it. Once again, I'm going to bevel all around it and make sure I've got all the beveling done that I need to around it. I'm going to go ahead with my low angle beveler here and just finish out this side because I didn't do it earlier. And see how deep that area is right there? Like, that's going to be really great to go back with my modeling spoon in a little while and just kind of round out the corner of his face so it doesn't look so blocky. Okay. I'll go ahead and actually with that same tool, I did not do the other side. And I need to. And again, this is just a low angle beveler that's really big. Now, where I have taken this low angle beveler, this normally is a detail I do last, but I don't want to forget about it. You can see where there's shading and then where there's immediately just not shading. Okay, and that's where I take one of my largest backgrounding matting tools, and I just kind of run it along that area and help to blend that and smooth that a little bit. Like that. And it just kind of smooths it out, blends it in a little bit. And again, this is normally one of the very last things I do, but we're coming to the end of the parts that I'll actually do on the video. Next, after I do his hair and stuff here on his mane, I will sit and stare at this for another 20 minutes after the video ends, and I'll put a little line here, I'll put a little mark there, like I'll just see things that pop out at me. And one of the things I'll even do is I'll take a picture of it Okay, I'll take a picture of it on my phone, and then I'll look at the picture. And when I look at that picture, I will see things that I don't see when I'm just looking at it. I don't know what the psychology or math or whatever is in that, but I do that a lot. When I'm tooling something, I'll take a picture of it, and I'll look at the picture, and maybe if I missed a spot or something like that, that picture will show that to me, because I've been staring at this for an hour and a half already, but that picture is almost like looking at it from a different viewpoint, okay? This is that tiny little craft tool, and here I have like where a little bit of hair is up and out, and there's no way to bevel that without just crushing it down, and that's what this craft tool does. It gets in there, and it bevels that area. Ain't it cool? Now over here, same thing. Put it in there where those cuts are. Okay, now it does leave a little bit of a tool impression, but that's okay. I can go around and re-bevel that, and it'll be better. Right here, where his hair on his mane comes up to the side of his face, like that needs to be dealt with. And I will use a matting tool in that area to push down that background so that we can see that definition. And then we'll fade that out just like the beveling so that you don't see it. Okay? Okay. Now, we're gonna work on this mane a little bit and his forehead. His forehead so far is still pretty smooth, and we don't want that. Come up here, I'm gonna put a little bit of a line right in, coming up off of his eye. That's gonna help a good bit right there. Holy crap, I wish I'd done that earlier, I'd have felt better. Then I'm gonna come under his mane here with my low angle beveler, and I don't want to create a lot of distance, but I do want to create a lot of shade because that mane comes up and over his forehead. Like so. Now, I'm just going to go back with my swivel knife, and I'm going to make the main cuts, okay? It can be difficult to do hair because you have to flow it. You have to make it look right as you go. And I can't tell you any like trade secrets or anything on it because I don't know any. So I just try to make it flow. I'll do heavier lines. I'll do lighter lines. I'll do lines that are longer than each other. I'll do lines that kind of look like they go into nothing. Lines that come out of nothing. Like, this is not my forte. Again, go take a class from Jim Linnell or Jurgen or Annie Libertini. Like, those guys, they know what's up when they're doing animals and facial features and things like that. I just want to give the illusion that there's hair here and not just a bunch of scriggly lines. So that's what I'm going to work toward, okay? There are actual hair blades and things like that, but I don't want to use one of those on this. I just don't think it would, I don't think I would do it any justice with it, so not worried about it. Then you can go back with like that little hair tool we talked about earlier and make it look like this isn't so flat by just pressing it in some certain areas. And this tool needs to be nice and sharp though to be able to do that. And I'm not going to overdo it with that, but I'm going to do it a little bit just to kind of give it a, hey, you know, hair's coming out from behind each other and stuff like that. And I need to take my low angle beveler, and where the hairline meets the headline, I need to do something about that because right now it just flows from bald to hair. There we go. Tell you what, guys, the more I do to it, the more I like it. Sometimes I have that exact opposite effect. The more I do to it, the more I'm like, what have I done here? So we can go back to doing some facial features here, just kind of adding some lines and some shading where I think they belong. And again, areas where I have just lots of big flat spots, I'm just going to add some texture in there, and that'll help to take care of those areas. Okay. Well, guys, that's whoop, nope, I need to do something with that ear. That's way too flat and not textured. I started to do something with it, and then I got to beveling again, and then I went to hair, and that's how my mind works. Sorry about your luck. All right. Well, honestly, I think that's about the basics of it. Like I said, I'm going to sit here for quite a while and stare at it and decide, oh, I need more here. I need less here. I need texture over here. But I don't feel like you need to watch me do that for the next hour and a half to 2 hours. So there it is, guys. Here's where we're at the end of the video. Again, there will be a free download of this pattern on our website, and you can feel free to try it out and tool it along with us. Again, if I was to paint this, I could do a lot more with it, but I really do like a naked tooling to kind of show off its own shades and things like that. But I've seen folks that they tool pretty okay, but then once they're done painting, it's a masterpiece. But I'm the exact opposite. I feel like I tool pretty dang good, and then my painting is not masterpiece level. So anyway, so there it is, guys. There's the horse. I put on the Makers of Makers Leather Supply Facebook group that this horse needs a name. So far, I kind of like Clyde or Hank, but I haven't decided yet. We'll see what other recommendations come in. So until next time, guys, I'm Aaron Heiser of Makers Leather Supply. I hope you had some fun. Hope you learned something, and I hope you have a great day.